Let's talk about Denver Public Schools, which you brought up there. Could you each take a minute to explain in specific detail how you make Denver a safer place to be a child, inside school and outside school? Ms. Brough.
I'll start with inside school. I think for me, I've spent most of my campaign in the living rooms of people throughout this city. I think I've been in 70 living rooms. I kind of wish I would have taken a picture of each of them so you could see the living rooms. We can make a coffee table book that you could have. But in those conversations, the number one issue often was discussion of our school board and loss of confidence in the school board itself and its ability to make decisions both about educating our kids but also keeping them safe. And one of the issues we discussed was this requirement for blanket policy, where schools themselves couldn't come together, the teachers, the principal, the students, and decide how best to keep kids safe school by school, because I do think it can look different. And I would strongly support a school board that recognizes that kind of autonomy and agency in our schools increases safety for our kids, including those schools who want school resource officers, which is part of, I think, the last debate you all hosted.
Ms. Brough, thank you. That's how I want to make sure we hear from Mr. Johnston on that as well. How do you make Denver safer for kids inside and outside school?
I think the best way to keep a 17-year-old from picking up a gun is to make sure when that kid is 12, he picks up a passion. He picks up something that he actually loves, that is a part of a positive peer group that gets them motivated and engaged. That's why I would really start with expanding these after-school and summer school programs for kids on free and reduced lunch so they can help find those passions early on. The second best way you avoid a 17-year-old from shooting someone else or injuring himself is when that young person is 13 or 14 or 15 and makes their first mistake, gets caught with a gun for the first time or a serious criminal activity, we actually dramatically increase the intervention we provide to wrap around that young person. That means counseling, that means supervision, that means positive peer groups, that means family-based supports. I would significantly expand that kind of support across the city. And then the third is you do have to support schools in providing the security they think they are going to want to keep their kids safe. That can look different school to school, but when parents and teachers tell us we want back some basic security in our school, including school resource officers, that means for me allowing those parents and those teachers and those school leaders to choose that and keep that.
Some short answer questions on the situation in DPS to get some clarity. Both of you support the idea of individual schools deciding whether or not they want a school resource officer. If it means that the city has to pay for it, are you willing to do that, Mr. Johnston?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Brough. Ms. Brough, you seem to suggest that the DPS discipline matrix should be changed. As we've reported, young people charged with violent crimes up to and including attempted murder are allowed back into class so long as the attempted murder happened off of school property. Would you actively seek, through school board races or whatever, to have DPS reform its discipline matrix?
What I would do is partner with DPS and our community to be able to, yes, I would. Listen, when we think about our obligation to educate our kids and keep them safe, I think we can do both of those things and have kids who are at high risk, both for their own protection, but also other kids, to be in a safer location or in another school or learning in a different manner until they're stabilized or doing better or deemed to not be at risk to other kids.
Mr. Johnston, does the mayor have any role in leading on DPS over their discipline matrix?
Yeah, I think the mayor should be a part of this conversation, and here's why. I think we've missed what can be a very reasonable solution here. I ran schools that served kids who had committed murder or had attempted murder, had serious histories of sex assault, and we had settings where those kids would succeed. They were often 40 kids, and it's 11 or 12 adults, and that includes therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists. They are created for that service. We can both offer every kid a free and appropriate public education and not say that a kid who's been expelled from another school for a gun charge ought to be in a 3,000 student comprehensive high school where we have teachers every day trying to pat them down for a gun to make sure that they're safe. That is not the right strategy, but there is a way to serve those young people and to serve them in a setting that's going to serve them better and that's going to serve the rest of their peers better.
Both of you said you'll get involved in school board races. That's an awful nebulous thing to say. Let's be specific. The DPS board member who led the charge to get school resource officers out, Vice President Aonte Anderson, is up for re-election in November. Should Aonte Anderson be re-elected to the Denver School Board? Ms. Brough.
I'll work with the community to identify 3 people that, there's 3 seats up, and I'll work in community in Denver to identify the 3 people that need to be on the school board instead of who's there today.
It's declined to answer. Should Aonte Anderson should Aonte Anderson be re-elected?
Instead of who's there today.
I want to make sure we're clear on that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for catching that. So you will oppose his reelection?
I will support someone else with the community that restores confidence.
Mr. Johnston?
I believe he's lost the faith of the voters on this one, so I do not know that he will run for that seat, but I believe he's lost the faith of the voters based on the leadership over the last several years.